So React is a library which has states like this count we have here. And to handle these states, we have things called state management tools. For example, we have React Redux or Zustand, or maybe that's what it's called. Let me search here. Okay, so it is called as Zustand. This. Let me open this package. Okay, so we have this package, Zustand, and I think this is the yes, it's the it's the official website of this. But we also have something called context API in React, in which we will have one file in our source folder, and that will contain the entire state of the entire app. I mean all the states. So let me show you first how to use this. So let me create a context here first called let's say we have a book context.jsx here, and in this book's context we will create something like this. Let me create if we have a file here, and in this file we'll create a create context. So import create context from React. So we've imported this library, create context from React. Then we have to export this create context using a variable. Let's say this book context equals to, let's say, create context, and inside we will pass a empty object because the state will be completely empty initially, like this. So this will contain our book context here. We can create one more context called, let's say, user let me type context.jsx. Let me just copy the entire thing and add it here. So this will be not book context. Let me make this as user context and then save it. So let's say we have a app which contains lots of users, and we have to fetch data in different components or post data in different components like that. So we can use this context called user context. Similarly, we have book context. Say we have different kind of books, or we have a books app, and we have to handle all the books like post request. So this will contain the book context. I mean all the states for books. This will contain all the state for all the users. All you have to do is import this into our main file called app.jsx, or maybe a component. So let me create a component folder first. No, not a folder. First, let me do this. So in the app.jsx, let me clean out all this code here from Vite and then save. We don't need this logo import, so remove it, and this count state as well. Okay. Now in this, we have to import useState that is already here. Now we have to import this context, say user context. So we can import it. So import user context from this file. See, it has been automatically imported. Then we have to wrap the entire app. So let's say we have a folder called, wait, let me just create a folder called component or components. In this, let's say we have a page for users.jsx. Okay, make it a functional component. Okay, I think we have to install one library here. So let me come over to this and say React snippets, because I got a new MacBook, or my first MacBook. I think this is it. ES7 React Redux. Install this, and we can just do what? Close this, I guess. Yes. Now if we type RFC, we will have functional component here called users. Now we can save this, and we can import this component in our app.jsx. So import users from components user, and then just copy the name of the component and return it here. Okay, sorry, say users. I'm still getting used to my new MacBook. Now save. So similarly, let's say we have one more component called books, which will contain all the book UI or something like that. So make it a function as well. Save this. Also import this here. So we can import books from component books and then return it here. Say books. Okay, I'm doing it wrong. And then save it. Now we have this user context and one more called book context. So we're only importing user context here. Okay, now what we have to do is we have to wrap the app. I mean, not the app. Let's say we have this users here, and these users need the access to this state called, I mean, this context. So let's say here we call an API. The data is getting stored here, and we have to make sure that everything inside users or every component should be able to access the data of this user context. I mean, this user data. Or maybe let me explain it like this. So let's say we have books content, I mean books component and users component. So let's say we are calling an API, some API, and it is returning us some data, say JSON data, and we want to use that data in both components here, in users and books. So we have to pass the data using props, like, I mean, let's say data equals to data. So that will be not preferable because we cannot do this if we have 100 components or many components. Okay, so in that case we can use this context. So let me just give you a demo here. So say const, let's say we have a set called user name, comma set user name. So equals to use state and empty array, not array, let's say empty string. Okay, now let me make the string as Nishant, I mean the name here, the username. Okay, now let's say we have to use the username in both components, or maybe we have 10 components. So we had to pass it in users, books, and etc. So in this case, we can simply use this thing called context or user context. So we have to wrap this books and users component in this. So let me add, I mean, what was the name? User data. By the way, it is better to make this as capital because we will have to use it here like this, like tags. So better to make this U as capital and save the file. Come over here, then make user context dot provider. Now just copy the closing tag or simply cut it and paste it after the books. Now this is including our users component and books component. I mean, this is including users and books like this. Okay, now let's say we have to pass this username in both components, in users and books. So we have to just do this. In the provider, we will add value, and the value will contain the data we have to pass, say username, like this. So using this, we can pass data. We can also pass this called set username. So let me give it a comma and save it like this. So now we can set our username from this books component and users component, and we can also access them. Now we don't have to pass them using props. That is, I think, not proper. Now what can we do? Let's get data. So let me close this book context for now. Come to users, and to get data from the context, we have to open the component. So we have opened it here, users, and in this we have to use something called okay, we have to destructure it. Yes, so here we can just get two things: import use context from React. Wait, what happened? And then we can use the context name. So it is called user data. User data, sorry, not data, user context. Yes. Now we have to destructure our value from this context, but first we have to configure it. So to configure it, we can simply say use context, and in this we have to pass the context name, which is user context. Now this will contain these values, I mean the username and set username that we are passing from the app component. Let me get it here. So we want let username equals to this. Now save. Now let me just copy this username and add it here. I mean just paste it here and say and save. Now let me open the Chrome browser and we will see. Let me zoom this. Okay, how to zoom this in? Okay, option, command, I think. Okay, I think that's fine. Maybe I have to use command plus plus. Yes, now we can zoom this. So instead of users, we can see books. I mean, instead of users, we can say Nishant. Yes. Now we can do same thing in the books component. We need these two things, and we can add it here, and we can simply destructure the username here. So let me copy this as well, paste it here, paste it here, and we can just do this, save, and now we'll see books and Nishant in both cases. Okay, we don't need this. So let me come back to Chrome, VS Code. And okay, now let me remove this from books for now. Say we have a button here. Button. Say change name. Save this, and just like we have with username here, we want the set username to be destructured here in the books component. So let me paste it here. And on the button, we can simply do onClick event, an arrow function here, and set username to whatever we want. So set username to, let's say, Amit. Now save this. Now if you open Chrome, we have a button. Click the button and the name will be changed to Amit. So in this component, we are calling a function which is this set username. Okay, so it's setting the name to Amit from Nishant. So that's how the use context hook works. So let's say we have one more component here, then we have to repeat the same thing that we repeated here. Create context, copy the context here, in the component. So we have component called ABC here, and we have to pass some data. So we have to wrap the context provider like this here, and we can do this. So one more method we have is to use React Zustand. So let me open this in here. Okay, we have it here, and it looks good. 1 up, 2 up. Okay, what is this? So let me just go to this GitHub repo and install this package. So to install it, we can use this command. So let me just copy and open terminal here. So just let me add it here, paste, enter, and it will be installed in a few moments, and it's done. It's very lightweight, I guess, or maybe my PC is fast. MacBook is fast. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to import this create. So let me do that. It doesn't say where we should do it. So first create a store. Yes, so I guess let me create a folder here called store, or maybe small store. Okay, in here we can create a file called store.jsx. Now let me paste this. Okay, we will have functions here that we will, all the state, all this Zustand logic will be here. Now let's say we have this constant called use bear store. that will use this create from the stand, that will create a state. So let's say we make this as use user store for users, and say we have users here, which is 0. Okay. Now increase population is a function that is setting the state to users, and users will be state dot users plus 1. It kinds of works like set state in class components. If you have to remove bears, we have to make this as 0 or maybe -1. Okay, let me do this. I mean, let me remove or just copy this here, paste it here, and make it decrease population. And instead of minus, I mean plus, we will have minus. Okay, and remove all users. Okay, this will remove all the users. So let me do this. Set users to 0. Okay, now let's see what's the next step. Okay, then we have to bind our component. That's it. Use the hook anywhere. So let me get the use bear store in the users page here. I mean users.jsx. So what is it say? What does it say? Okay, we have to import the use bear store, which is basically this use user store. So let me import use user. Wait, let me do this. Use user store. Okay, we cannot import it like this. What can we do? Let me. Okay, we have to export it, I guess. Then we can import it in a new function. Yes, export this. Now let me use user store. Yes, the next step is to destructure this like we have here. So let me just remove, I mean just add it here and say let users equals to what is this? What does it say? Use user store, and then we have to get the state that we have. Let's say state and a function. We have to get state dot users. We are having users. I mean we are having users, yes, and getting the state dot users from the store. This users. I mean the number of the users. So it's initially it's 0. If we increase it using this function, this will be increased. If we decrease it, it will be decreased. If we'll remove it, all the users, it will remove the users to and set it to 0. Now save this, and now let me console this users here. I mean not console it, just view it. You see this users is 0. Also let me remove this button click from here, or maybe okay, so let me do the same thing that we did in the previous version, like in the context API. Let me first add this as context to for you to know what is what context, and this is called the stand. Now save. Okay, just not rand stand. Save. So we are getting users from the store. It works the same way that the React context works. Now we can get increase population, decrease population in this books as well, or here as well. So let me copy this import and add it here. Okay, I will we cut it, copy it. Okay, now let me paste it here. Now we have to destructure, I mean do the same thing like let users. So copy this, paste it here. But instead of the users, we will have the function name, which is increase population, a callback function. So we have to do this and this. I guess we have to make this like this because it's a function. On click of the button, we can just call the function to see if it works or not. Now save this. Let me try. Okay, refresh the page. Okay, that's not fine. +1 -1. What is wrong here? increase population. Maybe we don't need to do this. It will work like this. Yes, click, let's say change, or let's say increase users. Save, click this, and yes, it's working. So yes, the function is already here, like this. I mean callback function. If we simply call it like this will increase the population. Let me have one more button here. I mean function for decrease population, and this will be called as decrease population. Now let me create a button for decrease. I mean decreasing users. So decreasing users. In here we will have this function. So paste it, save, click decrease users. It will decrease decreasing users, not decreasing, increase. I mean decrease. Save. Okay. Yes, it goes in negative as well. Same way we can use this function called remove all users. And see, the thing is, our users count is inside this users component, but the function that we have to increase or decrease users in this component called books. So that's how this React Zustand works. Okay. To fetch everything, we can just import this. I mean, we don't have to do all these things. I mean, let's say we have a function. I mean, let's say we have a user state or a variable that will contain all our state, like we have users, say we have books and all. So if you use it like this, it will contain all the states. We don't have to do that. And I think that's all. You can check async, and I think that's all the basic things that we need to know to manage states in React using Zustand.